Hello and welcome to Inking on the Fly with me, Amy Jasper. Today is a locking mechanism card. The butterfly acts as a lock and holds the gatefold card together. So you can do this two ways. You can push these wings together and open the card like that, or you can simply pull that aside, which I find that easier. You can open one side at a time, and then to put it back together, lift the butterfly's wings to lock the card again. So that is a special gatefold locking card. I found this particular idea, the gatefold locking mechanism with the butterfly, on a Demonstrator's YouTube channel. Her name was Linda Heller at Stamping School. So she shared this really cool idea, and I just changed it up with my own way of decorating the front and the inside. A little different than hers. And if you watch my video, you'll see you'll see her way of doing the locking mechanism concept, and then I'm going to try another way at the end of my video and see how it works, because I have a thought on how to adapt that concept. Okay, so let's get started. So this card begins with a piece of Crumb Cake cardstock, and this one measures 8 1/4 inches, and then I have a score line 2 inches from the left and 2 inches from the right, which allows me to create that gatefold but still have enough space in between the doors of the gates for that butterfly to fit, and so we can open the card easily. So that kind of concept. So you can see there's about 1/4 inch space in between. So then we can decorate the front of the card, and we start with 2 panels of basic white. Let's decorate the panels first. So here are our 2 panels of basic white cardstock. And if you got a kit from me, you have all of your little pieces pre-cut so that you don't have to do any measuring or cutting, and you can save so much time because I have done that for you. But let me lay them out so you guys know what goes where and what sizes. I'll tell you the sizes, and all the measurements are going to be in the description of this video as well, so you can always refer to that for your measurements. So we have these pieces here are 1 3/4 wide and 5 inches tall, both of these pieces. And then you have a couple of pieces. These are the same size. One is the piece, if you have a kit, then you have this piece with the kind of the yellow backing. This is the Fine Art Floral Designer Series paper, by the way. Lovely, right? I love it. It's so pretty. So this one has the yellow backing and the big bold pink flowers on the front, and that measures 1 5/8 wide and 2 1/4 inches long. And this one's the same size, but this one is one that has sort of the pale pinky color on the back, and then the brush strokes behind the darker pink flowers. And all of these are 1 5/8 inch wide. So this one here is a perfect square, 1 5/8 by 1 5/8. This has the crazy multicolored background with big bold flowers. And then the other side is the same as this paper. So the paper has quite a variety of tone of color on it. So some of it's quite dark, some of it's quite light, but it has those sort of 4 petal images on it. So that one is square, so 1 5/8 by 1 5/8. This one is 1 5/8, as they all are, but this is 1 1/8 inch tall. And then this piece at the bottom on the side, it has that pale pink coloring, and on the back will be the same as this paper down here that I have. So that's that little piece. And this one is just 7/8 inch. And my measurements are just based on how I wanted the paper to fit. You could do this same card and have a solid panel that is just fits inside of these white panels. I chose to go with kind of a paper piecing, quilting kind of color blocking effect. Now I haven't told you yet what these are. These are beautiful, are they not? Look at that shine. These are smooth, no glitter to escape and get all over your face and tabletop and projects. This is the new pack. It's from the new pack of gold and rose gold metallic paper. It is so pretty. So this is the rose gold, which goes beautifully with all the pinks in this paper pack, the Fine Art Floral Paper Pack. The opposite side is kind of a plasticky material. And I have cut each of these is 3/8 of an inch wide. And then it's the same 1 and 5 inch, tall, 3/8 of an inch tall, 1 and 5/8 of an inch wide. So then we're going to place all of these guys on these panels. These are our front panels that are going to go on the front of our card. So we can attach all of these. And I like to start when I have spacing that I want to be even. I like to start with my top paper piece and then do my bottom paper piece to get that initial spacing how I want it to be. And then I can lay down my other pieces and get an idea of how my spacing will be. It looks pretty good. I think I'm going to be okay. My other one ended up having some pretty wide spaces, but this one looks like I've spaced them a bit better. There's always just a slight variation in my cutting, I find, especially when I'm cutting these little pieces. You can be off by such a small amount, and it starts to show when you're putting a whole bunch of small pieces together like this. So this way, because I attached the top and bottom first, my last piece, I can make sure that it is even. Alternatively, if you start from the top, then do this piece, then this piece, then this piece, you might end up with some uneven, it might be more difficult to balance all of your spacing. So again, we do our top piece and our bottom piece. I like the Tombow liquid glue because I can ease things into place if I get them crooked, as you know if you've watched my video. So here's an example of my spacing being a little bit bigger. If I just laid this one down before these two, I would end up with some pretty weird spacing going on there. It's quite wide, but because I'm placing two down, I can adjust the spacing to make it equal between each of those. So I can lay it down kind of as a practice round here, and then get an idea. Then I know where my next piece needs to be to make sure that that spacing appears more even though I know that it's wider than I wanted it to be. So it's going to be wider than this side. That's okay, because if I'm watching it to make sure that it's even, because there's 3 spaces, right? I want those 3 spaces to be even as much as I can. Whoops. And then whoever receives the card will not even know that my measurements were just a tad off, because they will see the whole card at once. They're not going to look at the spacing and go, huh, that's spaced differently than that one is. Because I'm tricky and I made it even and spaced it out even. You see that? Okay. So next, if you have a kit, you will have a piece, a 16-inch piece of linen thread. Now I, strangely enough, have run out of linen thread. Linen thread is probably my most favorite type of trim or embellishment to add to a card. So I'm out of linen thread. So what I'm going to do instead is use some of the new Crumb Cake baker's twine. This comes in a pack. It includes white, crumb cake, gray granite, and basic black. Awesome, love it. So this is kind of another alternative. It's a little thicker than the linen thread, but it's a bit of a different color, but not that different. A little bit different. Linen thread is a little closer to Sahara sand, I would say. Okay, so we're going to tie that thread, or baker's twine in this case, around this leftmost piece, this panel. I'm going to tie that, have the bow to the left side. And with baker's twine, it's good to try to keep everything kind of loose, holding that base knot, of course, as a starting point, but you're less likely to get strange twists if you keep everything loose while you adjust how big you want your loops to be. Then you're less likely, but it's not guaranteed, to have less twisting. Because sometimes with these, with any thread that is twisted like this is, when you pull it through a tight knot, part of the thread gets twisted tighter and part of it gets loosened up a little bit, so it's uneven, and that's why you get that twisting. So I can trim my tails. I'm going to try to turn my bow a little bit so it's not straight. I want it kind of at an angle. Like that. There. So those are our first two panels for the front of our card. So then I can go ahead and put those on the front. So the one with the bow on it is going to go on the left side. And because my baker's twine is a little bit thicker, that side is going to want to kind of pull away from what I'm gluing it down to, just because there's some thickness in between. So I'm going to make sure that I glue that down really, like I put pressure there when I attach it. So when you attach this, you want that to go flush with that inside, the inside part of your door of each of your gates. And that will create the illusion of an even border of crumb cake going around both your panels. Because the panels are flush up against the gate, you have that 1/4 of an inch crumb cake showing in between. So then your panels are equally spaced, right? I think that was fairly clever of me. Okay, just going to put some extra pressure near my baker's twine, make sure it holds really well. And then I can attach my right side in the same way, right snug up against the inside of that door, flush with the edge. And you want to make sure kind of that it's in line with the first one that you already put down. And this way you have an even border all the way around. Oh, that's not lined up. Slide it into place because it's liquid Tombow glue. Liquid Tombow glue saves the day again. Okay, so there is our front panels done. So on the inside of this card, there are more panels. And the reason for that is because when this card is on display, they can choose to display it closed like this and lean it against something or put it in a little stand, or they can display it like that. So that's why we want it all pretty on the inside. And I left lots of room for us to write a little personalized note. So now we're going to do those inside panels. So I'm going to set this aside and I'll decorate. I'll get my inside panels here. So we have 4 panels. One is simple and plain. And then we need to get those other 3 sorted out. So I'll keep some space beside them and I will lay out and tell you what we need here. So for this panel, we have the same sizes as I did on the front of my card, but a little bit of a variation in paper. So on the front of the card, on the right side, we had this piece, this square piece, 1 5/8 by 1 5/8. But instead of this piece, we're going to put in a 1 5/8 piece that is square, as that one was too. But this one has sort of the watercolor wash, orangey, pinky kind of watercolor wash on the back. And the front has more of a white base because it goes with this paper. So it has kind of that whitish bluish base and then some floral designs. So that's what that one is. And then we have the gold 3/8 of an inch piece. We have that piece that has the pale pink on the back, and then another rose gold piece. And then this panel here is going to have exactly the same as what we did on the front left panel. So again, these are 2 1/4 inches. This is 1 5/8. This is 1 what is this one? 1 1/8, and this is 7/8. And then our final panel on the left is just going to have a piece of that designer series paper, same as this one here, same pattern with the orangey pink backing and then the flowers. So that's going to go here, and that kind of pulls those 2 patterns together and brings out some of the blue in our butterfly. Okay, so we will put these together in the same fashion that we did on the front of the card. So it's a bit time consuming to do all of these, to glue on all of these pieces, but I really like the effect that this gives us. I find it very pretty and shows off more of the paper, and it's great for using up scraps, little scrap pieces of patterned paper. Okay, so like I did on the front, I've got top and bottom done, and then I'm going to lay down those in between ones. Make sure I get my spacing. Ooh, I got quite a lot of spacing on this one as well. That's okay. As long as it's even, then it can be as wide as it needs to be. And again, it's probably my gold foil strips, my gold metallic pieces, because they are so small. I was finding it a little bit tricky to get them all the same. Even though they're all 3/8 of an inch, I think it's probably my cutter and my cutting technique that is at fault more than, it's not the paper's fault, that's for sure. So those are quite wide spaces, wider than I wanted, but that's okay. And then this side. Same thing, do the top, then the bottom. And I chose not to add a sentiment to this card. thought about maybe adding a sentiment, but whatever I chose, whatever I tried to add just felt like it was stealing the show too much. It was taking away from what I was trying to achieve. But if you really wanted to add a sentiment, you could, on the front of the card, you could put a little bit of a sentiment here on the same panel on the front. This is the inside, of course, but so you could put a little sentiment there, or you could just leave it for what you write, or you could stamp a sentiment on the inside front. And of course, if you do this card at home with other supplies, you could, instead of doing paper, you could be stamping on these, you know, you don't have to do this paper piecing, obviously. Okay, last one. This one is 4 7/8 tall, and then just like all of them, it's 1 5/8 of an inch wide. Okay, so that goes like that. Okay, so we're not going to attach these middle pieces yet, but I can attach these outside pieces to my card. So I'll attach those on either side of the gate. And this time, instead of having, like we did on the front, we had it flush with the inside edge of those doors. This time we're going to have it flush with our fold on the inside edge. That way we can have a nice even border. Make sure it closes. Good. Then we can have an even border around the edges. Always make sure that you can close it when you put anything close to a fold like this. Because sometimes if you're too close, the card doesn't like to snuggle up against that extra layer. Perfect. Good. Okay, so now we're at the mechanism part. The very interesting mechanism element, and I have 2 ways that I want to show you. So if you have a kit, then in your kit you will have one of the mechanism options that I have to show you. And if you hang on and watch, I'll show you it. I'm going to try another way as well. Okay, so this option that I'm going to show you first is one that you could do with any shape. So we're using a butterfly right now, but this mechanism that we're going to create will work with any shape that you do. You don't have to worry about making sure something matches the shape that you're using. So this one will match, will work with any shape. So what you're going to do with this piece is you're going to start by folding it in half. And this is just 1/2 inch by 4 inches. So you can fold it in half. Then you can fold it in half again. And this is the mechanism that Linda Heller used on her video that I watched. So then you unfold that, and then you can fold the folded end, fold it over itself, but this time only halfway so that the folded end matches that crease that you created in the middle there, like that. So then you end up with those 3 kind of folds, right? But then you're going to open up that end and fold it into itself to create, if you're holding these ends together, it's kind of a Y shape. Okay. So that's our Y shape mechanism. Okay, so having that ready, then we can take our butterfly and we will we're going to start by cutting off his head. And I want to show you why. So when my two dies are layered on top of each other, I just find that just that extra thickness on the butterflies, what are those called? Feelers? Antenna? I don't know. Anyways, on that extra weight there just feels a bit clumsy to me. So if you compare it to this butterfly here, you get that delicate feel from the butterfly because that clunkiness has been removed. So we're going to take this butterfly and we're going to chop off his head. And we can do our little evil squeal of glee if you're into that sort of thing. I do. I feel secretly evil and powerful when I chop off my paper butterfly's head. Okay, so this butterfly now we're going to fold in half. Okay, so he's folded in half. And then this is going to glue into our Y like that. So you're going to put adhesive in the V shape of this Y. Okay, so we have adhesive in the V shape of the top of that Y. Then we can have our butterfly folded and we can pop him in. Doesn't really matter where, but then you can pinch that V closed so that it's holding your butterfly in the V of the Y that you created. Okay, so then, whoops. So then you end up with this. So you've got, right, you've got weird folds happening that you put creases in. And you have that. So kind of a W attached to the bottom of your butterfly. Okay, next thing you're going to do is put some adhesive on those inside parts of that W. And that's going to hold the Y pieces that we had earlier, hold them together. So we end up with more of an actual, whoops, it helps if you hold it together until it sticks. I'm using liquid Tombow glue, so it takes a little bit of, not very long, but a little bit of time to dry. We just want to make sure that that's holding. And then we can pull those legs to the opposite sides. And we have our mechanism that we're going to attach to the inside of our card. Okay, so now I'm going to show you, I'll just kind of lay it out for you so you see how the mechanism works. So what you're going to do is you're going to end up attaching those legs to the middle of the inside of your card. Then you're going to adhere your panels. Oops. Then you'll adhere your panels to cover up those legs, right? So then when you look at the card that I already made, you can see those legs are hidden underneath and holding that butterfly in place so that every time I move my card to open and close it, that butterfly is going to stay nice and strong and sturdy. The only complication with this particular mechanism is that every time I go to close my card, my panels, my gate folds want to catch on this little piece here, threatening to pull it apart. So that's the only kind of downfall to this mechanism. There's a couple of ways to fix that. One is to take a butterfly, and I did. So you can take one of your die cut butterflies. I just happen to have a crumb cake one here. You can cut them in half and then glue a piece to the back, which then would cover up that little flaw in the mechanism. And that way, when we close the card, there's nothing for it to catch on. So that's an easy way to do that. The other way is the way that I want to try and see how it works. So I'm going to show you the other way, which is not, if you have a kit, that is not what you have in your kit. But I wanted to just show you. I don't know if I have, I do have another gatefold piece, so maybe I'll glue this down on the other gatefold piece after I show you, after we try out this second method, which apparently I need one more. I need to cut one more butterfly because I only have one cut. I didn't cut enough of those little blue butterflies. Okay, well, maybe I'll just steal this one and then I can show you the other card in a minute. Okay, I'm stealing this butterfly so that I don't have to cut another one. Okay, so this is what I want to try. So for this attempt, we're going to have 3 of these pool party butterflies that were die cut with the butterfly wings dies. We'll chop off their heads in our sinister fashion. And all of them are going to be folded. I don't know if this will work. We're going to just give it a try. So I'll fold all of these. And this one already was folded. And this time I'm going to attach them to each other. So I have 2 butterflies that are folded in half, and then 1 butterfly that's going to face me. So I'm going to apply glue to the butterfly that's facing me. I'm going to apply glue to his wings, or to one side anyways. And then I'm going to glue that to one of my other butterflies. And they might not match up perfectly. And that's okay. They could even be tiniest bit up, maybe. I don't know. This might not even work. We might be learning what not to do. We'll see. So same thing, we can apply glue to the other wing now of that front butterfly. And again, they might not match up. That's okay. Okay, so then we end up like this, which on its own is a pretty cool way to add a butterfly to a card, just saying. Okay, so we have that. Then we can try attaching that to our card, and the wings are going to hide underneath our panels. So if this doesn't work, I will be pulling this apart and doing the other way. So let's hope for the best, right? So then I can attach, or I can add my glue to these wings that are going to glue flat down. And that will take the place of those tails that we created with that 4-inch piece. So then I want to find center. So you can, I should have done that before, but one of the easiest ways to find center is just to line up to know that your gatefold, you don't have to line anything up, but you know that your gatefold it's easier to find the center. So I'm just going to put a mark so I know where my center is. And that will get covered up by my butterfly. So then I can attach my butterfly And I'm going to push those two wing sides together, making this one want to pop up more. I don't know. Let's make sure it's centered, looks good. Okay. I think this might work. We'll see. Dun, 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 dun. I'm excited. I'm excited. Okay, but before I do anything else, I want to make sure it works. So I'm going to just fold my thing closed and make sure it's holding. So you know what? It doesn't want to hold as well as the other one did. So there's that. The other one actually held better. But if I put this butterfly on top, it might get the stiffness that I need. So this butterfly needs to have all the little nibbly bits popped out here. So if you have a kit, you may also have little nibbly bits that need to be popped out. So go ahead and do that now. And if you don't have nibbly bits to pop out, you can fast forward to the next step. This won't take but a moment. All the little nibbly bits. Almost. There's another way to do this, guys. It's called a die brush, and it comes as a piece that you can use with your take your pick tool, and it's a little brush that will push out all of these little nibbly bits. Okay, but that wasn't so hard. It's frustrating if they don't want to push out and you have to get your scissors to help them along, but this time they behaved themselves. Okay, for this guy, I'm just going to put a little bit of my liquid glue on his body, being careful not to get any on his head because his head is not going to attach to anything because we cut off the head of our other butterfly. Okay, so that's going to go on the front and may or may not fix our system to be a little more stiff. Let's see. So I'm going to hold that in place just a little bit to make sure that that glue makes really good contact. Seems good, and it does help. Look at that. So I can still do the pinching technique, but honestly, I don't like the pinching technique. I'm just going to fold each side closed. So yes, that added enough stiffness that this system works. And then when I slide these in, there's nothing getting in the way of that sliding mechanism. So there you go. We together learned a new thing. So this will work with lots of different shapes, because whatever shape on front, if it's symmetrical, then you can fold it in half. And if it's not symmetrical, it doesn't matter because what's hidden underneath is not going to show because it's hidden. And you can make sure that whatever you attach to the front is the same matches. We could have flipped those dies backwards, if you know what I'm talking about. Flip them that way and then attach them, then they would have matched up better because it would have been the same side, touching or gluing to each other. Okay, so I'm kind of stoked about that. That worked really well. Okay, so if you didn't understand the previous method, then I better show you that one and do that one as well. So as you know, we have the butterfly that goes in the middle, and I have assembled quickly here a new one. I lost part of my butterfly on the back. I'm not sure what happened there. Human error is what happened. I'm just going to take my bone folder and just really make sure that this is stuck down because I did a little finagling and I want to make sure that I got that right. Okay, so I want to show you this one as well because this is what you have if you have the kit. So again, same dealio. except my card base is not yet decorated. But you're going to find your center and mark it where you want it to go. And then you can open that up, and then you have your tails on your butterfly, or legs, let's call them legs, the legs of your butterfly. You can add your adhesive of choice to those legs. And then use the mark to know where you want to put your butterfly. Open the legs up. And place your butterfly down, making sure, whoops, that those legs, mine slid around. Don't slide around. Make sure those are attached really good. And then you have your butterfly attached in the center of your gatefold. Okay, so 2 ways to do that gatefold technique. This one, like I said before, is kind of universal. So it's going to help you to be able to do this with any shape. And then this one allows you to close your gate without anything getting in the way. So just 2 different ways to do that. So once you have your butterfly in place, then you're going to attach your panels so that they go over top and hide the butterfly. So I'm going to do that on my other one that I already have panels on. So let's pop those off again, open it up, and we have our 2 panels. One's going to go on the right side. And this time when we put our panels down, we want to make sure that we have this nice even border, so that we have these even borders around all of our panels. And then that covers up the mechanism that holds our butterfly in place. And here is our last panel to add. Try not to have it be crooked. There we go. So there are all of our panels in place. And the last thing that I want to add to this card is a little embellish in the middle of my butterfly. And I can use a rhinestone or whatever I might want to use. So here I have a rhinestone just to give a little pizzazz to our butterfly. And then we have a fancy locking gatefold card. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll make many, many, many more cards like this, because they're super fun, right?